Hey guys, new video here. Today I'm going to show you guys my very last build that I'm playing right now that has a full quantity gear and can farm full tier 16 Deliriums without dying too much. Yes, you'll probably be dying sometimes, but that's what you have to expect when we're playing Magic Flame builds. So, this build kind of works the same way as my previous build does. You're going to be utilizing the Sextant that gives you damage per poison stack on you. Again, you're going to be having almost plus 1000% damage increase every time you go in the pack because you always have full poison stacks on you because of this jewel and this ascendancy. So this jewel, the golden rule, I just find for you, gives you plus, it reflects all the poisons you inflict on enemies back to you, which allows you to poison yourself and increase your own damage by 1000%, and increase your movement speed by almost 600% as well. And this ascendancy allows you to maintain all your poisons pretty much for the entire duration of the map, because it increases your poison duration per each enemy inflicted poisons. Because of how many mobs you have in Deliriums, you'll always have poison stacks on you, and you increase your poison duration for almost up to like 5 minutes, depending on how juicy your map is. Now, to the gear. I know I haven't explained too well my last video, but it doesn't really matter. If you're going to be farming if you're going to be using a poison build, pretty much all of your gear doesn't really make much of a difference. All you have to use is Morph Conquest. But since this is a full quant gear, full quant build, I'll expand my build and expand my choices a bit more in depth. So I'm using Morph Conquest. I'm using +1 power charges just to increase my damage a bit more. Again, you don't have to use it, but the getting the corruption on it will pretty much cost you about maybe 50C or so. Most of those helmets are 4C, and the corruption itself is not that common. You can probably get one every 20 or 30 helmets. For my Amulet, I'm using Simplex Amulet. Simplex Amulet increases all of your affixes by 25%. This is why I'm using it for the quantity. It gives me plus 2% quantity on the Amulet. It's not that big of a deal, but it's kind of nice to have. Plus 2% quantity never hurts. I'm also using +1 to all skill jumps because it's kind of easy to get, and it's just 3 damage. Again, I'll be using Cosplays. I feel like Cosplays is the best way to go if you're going to be playing a gold skill, which I'm playing. I'll be playing my Frostbolt, but I'll talk about my Frostbolt decision in a bit later. So one of your cosplays you always want to have Frostbite and Frostbomb. I'm using as a third link. I'm using Ice Nova. So Ice Nova will be proccing your Frostbomb. I'll be proccing your Frostbite. Frostbite is really important because it increases the damage you do to mobs and it has a high chance of freezing mobs. Freezing mobs in Delirium is life and death. If you can't freeze mobs in Delirium, you'll die a lot more than if you can. So I suggest you buy as much cold penetration as you can, because it will save your life and make the game much easier for you. For my off weapon, I'm using Ice Bite support for extra freeze. Energy Reach increases your damage just by a little. You have 2% increased damage, but that doesn't really mean much. And I'm using Ice Nova again, which probably isn't the best play. I should probably be using Frostbolt or something like that, because this doesn't stack. But I'll just fix later. Doesn't matter too much. For my 6th link, I'm using my Grid's Embrace. Grid's Embrace increases my quantity by 15%, and increases my rate of items found by 42%, up to 50%. I'm mainly using it for quantity, but you can also use it for rarity if you're going to be looking for Headhunter belts, in case you're going to be using Nemesis on your map device. For my links, I'm using Awakened Custom Crit. I have level 6. You don't have to have level 6. I think I'd say level 1 is fine. It depends on how far you want to take this build. So the more damage you have in this build, the easier it is. So you can put in more quantity gear, like me. Currently I have all of my items being quantity, but again, you don't have to go for it. Using again seconds are main ability, don't really have to say much about it. Awakened added cold damage. This is really important. All of our damage is being multiplied by a flat damage. So let's say you have plus 1000% damage from your poison sextant. It only multiplies your base damage. So the more base damage you have, the more damage you're going to be doing. So I suggest you buy this gem as well as this tool. Mantra Flames. Let me just find for you. Mantra Flames gives you plus 15, let's say 15 flat damage per buff on you. So the more Headhunter stacks you have, the more damage you're going to be doing. So let's say have 10 stacks, that's almost 100 flat damage multiplied by 1000. So effectively it's plus 1000 DPS you'll be getting. Increased more so on your skills as well. So I'll also be using an Amulet Inspiration support. It gives you plus critical chance, and it's really nice to have. It decreases your mana cost on a Cyclone, and increases how much crit you can have, as well as a multiplier. Again, you don't have to use Inspiration support. If you don't use this, I suggest you use a probably Spell Echo. Spell Echo is a good choice for this build. Again, I'm using Frostbolt, that's why Spell Echo could be a good idea. After that, I'm using Awakened GMP. Awakened GMP is pretty much mandatory if you want to have a good quality of life on this build. And the more projectiles you have, the more of map clear you have. So without this, my Frostbolts, I'll probably have like 2 or 3 Frostbolts. It wouldn't be enough to even clear the Legion. But once you do get a GMP, the game becomes so much different. You could be freezing mobs so far away from you, you won't be able to see them, but they'll be frozen away. They'll be frozen, so they won't be attacking you as much. And that's kind of why I'm using Frostbolt. Frostbolt is a good spell for you to use if you like to be more or less defensive. It has less damage than Ice Nova does, but by itself, it gives you a lot more quality of life and a lot more clear speed. So the more clear speed you have, the tankier you are. And you don't really need dex damage because you have so much in the build. For my helmet, I'm using Vortex. Vortex again gives us a lot of freeze effect, as well as Unbound Ailments and Bone Chill. Bone Chill again lets us freeze mobs. The more we freeze, the more you live. On the Vortex, I'm using Hextech support, which gives us +1 curses, +1 to curses at level 5. So it has to be level 5. If you don't have a level 5, I suggest using Unbound Ailments and Arcane Surge. And I'm using Temporal Chains just for extra defensives. Again, if you don't want to buy level 5 Arcane Hextech, I know it's kind of expensive, don't go for it, just buy extra Chill Effect and Arcane Surge for your Vortex. For my gloves, I'm using Custom Damage Taken and Immortal Call. Pretty much basic. If you want, you can buy Divergent custom damage taken, which has a lower cooldown. And I'm using, of course, Arcane Surge and Dash. I don't really use Dash too much, so this is up to you what you want to use for it. For my boots, I'm using Divergent Lethality. It gives me plus 30% damage increase on full life. You'll pretty much always be on full life, I'd say, because of honey mobs there. You'll always be leeching life, you'll always be at full life. So it's a good choice to have. It doesn't conserve too much mana. It only reserves 28 mana by itself. As well as I'm using Hatred. Hatred is a really good aura for any cock build, increases our cold damage, as well as if you're using a Watcher's Eye. Watcher's Eye is going to increase your damage by a lot. Anomalous Precision decreases your mana reservation by 10%. Again, you don't have to have it. It's kind of nice to have. If you won't be using Anomalous Precision, I'll suggest buying Diversion Precision. It increases your damage by 10%, but you might be having mana problems if you're using a Headhunter. Her device, kind of basic. I'm sure you guys understand. It again gives you a lot of base damage. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for a lot of base damage on our build. This way, we're gonna be doing a lot more damage. Now, as the build itself, I'd say I have been playing this build for about 2 days or so, 2 or 3 days. I have tried a lot of different variations of this build. So far, I believe this is probably the best variation I've came up with. I have tried Freezing Pulse, I have tried Ice Nova, I have tried Discharge. Discharge was actually pretty good. I kind of enjoyed playing Discharge, but it didn't work out too well because you'd lose a lot of damage on bosses, and you have to have that damage for Colossus, otherwise you'd just be dying non-stop. You'd never want to leave Colossus alive. For my 3 is pretty much the same as it was. I know a lot of you guys were buying Glorious Vanity. The reason why I have it is for this, for those store fixes. Corrupted Soul gives us a little bit more survivability, makes us have a bit more life. Well, it gives us energy shield as maximum life. So I have almost 1000 energy shield just from that. And it gives us Ritual Stillness. It gives us a bit of cold penetration. Cold penetration in Delirium is really important because you want to be able to freeze as many mobs as you can. Especially Delirium mobs have a lot of cold resist. So the more cold penetration you have, the more damage you'll be dealing. So my current build is not going to be budget. If you want to have a magic flying build, you might want to spend at least, I'd say like 40 exalts to make it work. Not including Headhunter, of course. So 40 exalts for full map build, I'd say it's pretty worth it. So far I've gotten 5 Doctor cards in maybe 25 maps. So 1 Doctor every 5 maps, more or less. So it's looking pretty good for me. It's looking pretty good. And if you have any questions, come on my Twitch. I can't post my POB yet, because the base spin doesn't work. But once that's fixed, I'll be updating all my builds and making more builds for you guys. I hope you enjoy. Have a good time. Good night.